I would like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order for Tuesday, January 17th. It is 6:03 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Teresa A. Moss present.
Chad Sexton Duranian present.
And Veronica Kell present. Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America and to the republic and to the God of the world. Thank you. I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded. It will be on the town YouTube channel, and it is also live on Shannon. Chairman's additions or deletions. I have none at this point. Does anybody else?
I do not.
Do we want to, in this part, talk about the confusion with the capital planning?
Let's do that under liaison.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good idea, capital planning. All right, public comment period. I know we have our town clerk here with us. So
Yes,
Kathy, do you want to start?
Sure, thank you for having me. I'm just here to announce that the nomination papers for the annual town election are now available. There's many openings. And you can take out papers until March 3rd, but they need to be back on March 6th. You need 40 valid signatures, so it's best to get 45 to 50. And whenever the office is open, you can come in and take papers. It's on the front page of the website, all the openings. There are quite a few this year. So please come out and take out papers. Get involved. And the other thing is dog licenses are due. You should come in before March 1st to avoid any late fees. And if you license your dog before February 1st, you're eligible to win the #1 dog tag and a blanket, which I have here tonight. So your dog could be the lucky one. And does anybody have any questions or anything? No?
I just think you should say how easy it is now to do the dog licenses right online.
Oh, yes, it is. If you go to our website, you can pay for them online. You can send us your current rabies, email those to us, and then go online and pay. And we will send you the dog tags through the mail. It works out really great. We've already had almost 400 dogs registered. So, and probably half of those through Unibank on the website. Thanks, Teresa. That's a good update. So, all right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kathy.
Are there any other comments? I don't see any. So we're going to go on to 1 through 6, the meeting minutes. Approval of meeting minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes, so let's take them one at a time. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of August 30th?
I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from August 30th, 2022.
Second.
Any comment? I gave 2 to, there were 2 that I had that I gave to Sabrina. One was on the front page. There's a fragment, just to remove that. And same with the Karen Fiber channel that was removed at a certain point. I think that's needed to be in. So those were my only. Anybody else? No. All right, so I guess we don't have to do roll call votes. We're all here, right?
Yes.
All right, so all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. No one opposed, so the August 30th, 2022 minutes are approved. Minutes for September 7th.
I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from from September 7th, 2022.
Second.
Are there any comments on this one?
Hmm.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. The ayes have it, and the September 7th minutes are approved. And the last one was for January 3rd.
I make the motion that we approve the meeting minutes for January 3rd, 2023.
Second.
All right, any comments on this one? Again. Leah? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So unanimous, the January 3rd minutes are approved. Thank you. Thanks, Sabrina. All right, the appointments and hearing. We have an appointment at 6:30 with Ross, Terry, and Good Energy. Maybe that's why they're not here yet. It's not 6:30. So, all right, so let's go on to appointments. We have 2 appointments for police officers here in town. So is there a motion to appoint Dylan Dennis as a full-time Townsend police officer?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Dylan Dennis as a full-time town police officer.
No, second that.
Is there any comment?
Sure. I was thinking I could get, I've got 3 officers here today that I want to talk about. Dylan Dennis, Raphael Huertas, and Peter Oden. Want to come up here and have a seat? We'll introduce you to the board. I think I can introduce all 3 of them, give you a quick bio, and we can move on. Dylan is the first gentleman. Have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. Dylan responded to an October 5th posting for certified police officer after a pretty rigorous testing procedure, including a written test, physicals, assessment test, a video test, interviews, background investigation, psychological, the whole shebang. He was given a conditional offer of employment. He is a certified full-time police officer, graduated the academy, Boylston Academy in July of 2020. He's been and he has been full-time in Ashby since. He is since being employed, he's done some time at Mount Wachusett College as well. Since being employed, he's been a certified PT instructor for the academy, and he has has received several commendations, including one for helping evacuate a burning building. The man to his right is Raphael Huertas. Raphael responded to a hiring post that we did in November of 21, believe it or not. Went through a significant hiring process as well. Same process pretty much, with a written physical test, assessment center, interviews with people in our building, background investigation, the physical tests, the psychological tests, the whole shebang. He is also completed entry-level testing for the academy, which starts on January 30th. So he is getting ready to ship out to that. He's got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from UMass Lowell, and he has been employed as legal assistant and doing some social work prior to his employment with us. To his right is Peter Eldridge. Peter is our latest hire prior to these gentlemen. He has just received his academy certification December 30th. He was hired back in July. He attended the Boylston Academy. Again, he graduated in July. Had a significantly good academic track record, graduated in the 92.90. I don't know who won it, but gosh, it's pretty good. He's also a graduate of UMass Lowell. I made the dean's list there the entire time. Done an internship with Acton Police Department, and he's worked security prior to his job with us. He's in field training now, and he should be on his own probably mid-March.
Congratulations and thank you. Thank you. All aboard.
All right, so should we continue? So we have a motion on the floor to appoint Dylan Dennis, who you all just met. I put your pictures on. So people at home would know who you are. So, are we ready to vote, or do we have further comments?
Does this need to be roll call?
Well, we kind of do it roll call anyway, but no, it doesn't need to be, so.
Do it at roll call, yes. Teresa A. Marsh, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Cal, yes. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Is there a motion to appoint Raphael Huertas as a full-time Townsend police officer?
I make an appointment to, a motion to appoint Raphael Ortiz as full-time Townsend police officer.
The second time?
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, Teresa, how do you vote?
Teresa A. Marsh, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Cal, yes. So welcome, and Peter, you've already been appointed, so we are gonna appoint you, but welcome. to all of you.
Welcome, excited to have you aboard.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we have two more, committee appointments. First one is to appoint David Worland to the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust for a 2-year term.
I make a motion that we appoint David Rowland to the Townsend Affordable Trust for a 2-year term.
Second time?
The only thing I want to say is on the volunteer response form, when you do it online and you select the pull down, it says Housing Authority. There is no housing trust option, affordable housing trust option, because the left from on there.
So we need to,
That's probably
Tweak that.
something we should change, because we do have one more appointment for that for the trust, so. So this is a 2-year appointment, so it'll be I put January, 15th or 30th, 2025? What should it be?
I mean, I would do till 30th to the end of the month.
Okay. So it's an appointment to January 30th. So Teresa, 2025. So Teresa, how do you vote?
Teresa A. Marsh, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Cal, yes. So welcome, David. We'll see you at our next meeting. And the next one is to appoint Cheryl Aldrich to the Townsend Meeting Hall Gallery Committee.
Make a motion that we appoint Cheryl Aldridge to the Townsend Meeting Hall Gallery Committee.
Second?
All right, and so discussion, I just have a quick discussion. This is what it was this appointment that spurred on our conversation last time about whether we appoint someone from out of town to a committee. So this appointment is for someone who lives in New Ipswich, New Hampshire. So what I did today, I thought about this after our conversation, and I thought, well, you know, the meeting hall gallery is in the senior center library building. And though the building, those two town services are also used by people in New Hampshire. We're a border town, and you can get a library card, and you can get a membership to the senior center. And so I went to check, and she is a member, an active member of the senior center. So I just thought that is something that we might want to consider in the appointment. So that's all. Any further discussion?
How long has this position been open?
Wow. Okay, so we can go to the website.
I don't know how accurate that would be.
It is not active. So there are openings though on that committee. So, and it's
I think that committee has multiple.
opening, yeah. And I think that people have resigned. And so I think they could certainly use one other person on the committee. And so, anyway. I wouldn't necessarily want to appoint, people to town committees that didn't live in town. If it were things like, conservation or the open space and recreation plan, or, you know, the finance committee or things like that. But this one is a little bit different, and it's in a building that services not only our town residents, but people from out of town as well. And people do have the option to join both of that services.
In this particular situation, I do agree with you, although I would rather have a town resident in a position for that. I will say that the library has done a phenomenal job over the years, this year especially, with the Friends of the Library. And also Karen does a fantastic job with the Council on Aging and everything that they do over there. Emily has joined the forces over there as well, and they've done a lot of great work. And I would want to be able to have them have it as full a committee as they can. So I'm glad you brought this forward.
I was trying to think how to resolve that issue, and so I'm looking here to see if I can. Yeah, I think there's only one person who can do that.
And yes, and
So, sure. I mean, these are old, but you can see that date. We had a 2022, and I don't remember reappointing. 2023, and I think this was our resignation. So, it's not accurate, but it's, so,
So I'll move the motion.
all right, are we ready to vote? Teresa
Teresa Amos, yes?
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes?
and Veronica Kelly. So, welcome Cheryl Aldrich to the Council Meeting Hall Gallery Committee. All right, we have 10 more minutes before we have an appointment with Ross and to go over energy aggregation for the whole town. So, but let's keep going. The DLTA grant submissions. Do you want to talk about that, Aaron?
Yeah, so just briefly, the planning board, and I think the planning board chair is with us via Zoom, submitted a request for the town to put in for DLTA time for the MBTA communities issue. Basically, the MRPC was unable to give us a complete answer to our request from last year, and so we don't have we have a kind of a little bit of a roadmap. We don't have a bylaw to go forward and present to town meeting to try and address meeting our requirements in the MBTA communities. So I believe the planning board will request, and I think it's an excellent idea to have one of our our DLTA requests be to have MRPC finish drafting that bylaw and also kind of work with us through the reporting piece that would come after a bylaw adoption. So those kind of would be the hours that you would ask for.
Yeah, that's been a moving target because they've changed the specs, they've changed the date, they've changed the territory. I mean, I know the state decides to change things at the drop of a hat, but in the last planning board meeting, I did suggest that they might want to think about doing something, and they had a couple of options, and this is the one that they decided. I agree, we need to get that bylaw written just so we're covered for it.
And one of the things that I think is really important to remember is the sooner we get the bylaw drafted, the sooner we can present it to town meeting, the more chance bites at the apple we have of getting it passed. Because it may not get past the first swing at town meeting. We want to give ourselves time to kind of acclimate the town, I think, to the idea of what we're going to need to do to be compliant.
So, Will they get us something written that we can read?
They had, there was a general proposal that I think, the clerk had submitted. It was in SharePoint, did you see it?
Yeah, there's a
And
deal,
Rob
there's a
Perry,
deal too. I apologize, it came in today.
Under DLTA grant submission? Where did it get put?
I just saw it. General-
DLTA folder.
There's the 17th, right?
Yes,
I apologize, I didn't double check to see if it was in there.
I just, yeah, DLTA grant submissions 4.1 under, where we under work
Okay, so click on that. Let me see it,
meeting business.
because I put that folder there. It's in there in yours. Why is it not in? This folder is empty. I haven't seen it.
I hate it when that happens with SharePoint. But,
It's this stuck in.
you have the hard copy.
It's in the,
Explanation of
it's in
need
the hard
for-
copy of the folder as well. Share, let him share.
Where is it?
There's a hard
Also
copy.
have the copy in the.
Oh, in this
Yeah.
folder.
4.1. But it's always been.
The way it's beautiful, it's like kids. So given the time frame between now and the submission deadline, I think the idea would be for the Board of Selectmen to take a vote to for me to work with the land use planning staff to and MRPC to come up with a specific scope of work for the DLTA grant based off their submission and basically submit for that grant.
All right, is there a motion for that? I would agree with that, and we could sign it then next week at town meeting. So if we take the vote for you to work with them,
And then sign it off.
and sign it at town meeting. So, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
So moved as your.
Second.
All right,
Want to take a stab at it?
Yeah.
all right, so Eric will work with the planning board and board assistant to,
And I called Karen Chapman about it.
and get the wording
Yes.
straightened out based on what, the clerk submitted to us.
Yes.
All right. Teresa, how do you vote?
Teresa Ann Moore, yes.
Just Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica.
Thank you, Robert.
you.
Thank you, planning board. Thank you, Laura, for putting this all together.
And thank you, Sabrina, for pointing out to me that.
Thank you for your support.
You're welcome.
As for our second opportunity,
Yeah,
that's a little bit more up in the air. I know that Chaz brought up a bunch of different possibilities during our last meeting. So I guess the question is there any one that I think stuck out as a real, a real,
Sidewalks at the harbor.
well, we'll talk about that down under,
we could get a DLTA grant for it, I wish.
yeah, no, that's not gonna.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna.
That's not gonna.
Don't have any
We'll talk
engineers like
about
that.
that under 4.5. Um. So, yeah, no, that's not a.
What else do we have
Well, you had talked about recycling and trash, but that,
I didn't hear anything from the Board of Health for recycling or.
Well, we did talk to Karen Chapman and she said that's something that's not really within their wheelhouse.
Right, okay.
So probably not. The other thing I was thinking about was, laying us out a roadmap to become a housing choice community. Because that leads to housing choice grants that we can have access to at the state level.
We had that done. Didn't we? Yes, we had that done.
Okay,
when,
2015.
oh, well, that was before my time. When you say we had that done, what do you mean we had that done?
We worked with MRPC to find out what we needed to do to work towards the housing choice. There were two, to my knowledge, one was a ADA survey for each town building. I remember correctly. Transition plan, yep.
We put into that 2 years since I've been in selectmen and we've been rejected.
Yeah.
2 years in a row. We did not put in this year. For not by MRPC, but by the state.
MOD.
Did I ever send you? I never sent you the report that I submitted to the Board of Selectmen back in 2015 in regards to
About
what we
housing
needed,
choice?
what we needed to do to get on housing choice.
I don't think so. So if we already have that, it may be, we don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Here's the question, do we know where that is?
Chaz.
You
Chaz
do know
does.
where that is, and so you have the list.
Yes.
The thing which we do.
Okay, so then that's, maybe we only
If
have
we
one
do-
permission.
Well, we can still apply for it, can't we? That was back in 2015.
It has been 8 years. I don't know if the designation has changed anything in 8 years. And that's not saying it has, I just don't know. Anything's changed in the last 8 years with housing choice. We could have ask them to, review the housing choice information that they provided for us in 2015 to make sure that it's still up to date. And if there's any documentation that's,
And
I don't think it will be.
it changed stuff a lot.
that would be a concern, would be if we're offering no document has changed.
Well, if we applied and they said we did it before and here's the document, then that's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still think we should go forward.
To double check.
Well, to even apply for
If
it.
we had another thing that somebody had a burning desire to do, I would say maybe do that, but if we don't, having this reviewed and updated might
Did
make
any of
sense.
the department heads come forward with things that they needed to do?
I mean,
I think we should
Madam
go-
Chair,
Do that.
Laura Schifrin, I have my hand up.
Yeah. Do you have another DLTA grant idea?
Yeah,
For the-
well, yeah. I thought that Town Properties was sending a note up to the Selectman's office regarding 182 Warren Road and trying to get help to find out what would be the feasible way to go about that property.
That's the one that we've talked about in the past, that abuts the wildlife management area.
Yes.
And what would they do? What, okay,
Well, the question was would they be able to help us determine, because we don't have any funds for, this was, it was discussed with the housing, I think in housing as well, and the assessing department regarding,
that it was on the Board of Selectmen agenda as well a few times ago, a couple months ago.
so what was determined?
Well, it was determined that we do, nothing final yet was determined, but it was, you had asked how much we get from pilot programs for state-owned lands, and I believe I responded to you.
Yeah.
About $450,000. Because I thought that there was a concern that, cutting off the back part of it that about Hickory Hills would be negative, and it wouldn't really. And so if we cut that off and sold it to Fish and Game,
Right.
yeah, that I think is a topic for outside of this meeting. I think
Okay.
we can put it back on for next week. But we didn't really, for the next meeting. We'll put it on the 2/7 meeting. And go from there. So I thought that the idea to sell it had come forward. And I thought that was in our court at this point, and we just haven't gotten to that.
I'm thinking about what the DLTA grant can be used for. I'm trying to think how that would be helpful in that situation.
I don't think it will be.
So how about if we ask the town administrator to look into what was done in 2015, is that still relevant? And if not, then we can advise them to move forward with the grant.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, it is
You've been advised.
6:34, so I'd like to go to our hearing, if we could. And we'll start back with 4.2 after that. Good. All right, so we have Ross Perry here with us today, to talk with us about, energy aggregation for the community. This means all the families in the community. So come up here, Ross, and join us, and,
You want to sit here? And I, want to sit here?
No, thank you. Been there, done that.
do you want me to get your PowerPoint?
That would be great.
Your shoes don't match.
I know, it's tough when I dress myself. I realize.
Did you find it?
Um,
Is it in the folder?
this one I know is here.
Okay, just check.
We need 2 sets of folders, though. I'm a little confused on the folder system.
We have 2 sets, really?
I'm reading it, but we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Okay, so I need to be able to share my screen.
Hartley, can you make sure that Veronica can share her screen, please?
Yep, there you go.
Thank you.
PowerPoint.
What is the PowerPoint?
And sorry, I don't see it in
Sorry, Ross.
there. Where is that?
That's the thinking bubble.
I have it on my laptop. My laptop.
Activated the thinking bubble here.
Let me try to share screen.
Anyways. Share. There you go.
Okay, so let me hit.
You have to hit from the beginning.
Yeah, up
Up
just above that, right there.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. All right, Ross, well, welcome. We'll turn it over to you.
Something
Thank
didn't
you.
come through.
It's thinking about it.
It's perfectly fine on this screen. Your screen sharing is hard. You can share. Whoever saw that before?
No, this is happening to me.
That happened to you that last meeting.
That happened to me the last meeting when I was trying to share things and it was not.
I'm
like-
gonna stop the share and bring it back again. Sorry.
There's too many functions at once.
Screen sharing. Okay, this is what happened
When Ross did it.
when Sartell was going to do that, Chief Sartell. Um.
Can you try to? You want some, Ross?
Yeah, that's.
See if you can do it, since you're not connected to the town. I think it has to do with being on the town Wi-Fi,
But I'm not, how's Ross gonna be able to share it though?
because he doesn't have a town account.
If I log into Zoom.
Bob
He's
is-
still gonna be on the town Wi-Fi.
On a town
It's a
account.
town one.
Well, just popped in,
Did
Somebody's
it just
got it.
do it?
just popped in.
Okay,
Good.
I'm screen sharing. All right.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me back. This is a continuation of what we started in late fall. When we ended up consolidating all the municipal buildings, all the town accounts. And this is following up on what the Energy Committee had started previously. You may remember, so you signed a contract in the fall, effective December, to combine all town buildings into one account. And you were able to buy electricity 36 months at 15.7, so 15's a little under 18, a little under 16 cents a kilowatt hour for town buildings, which is 25% less than Unitel's current rate.
So we're saving there.
You're saving right now, or starting probably with the December read, your January bills. And that's good for at least the 6 months that Unitel has the winter rates. The summer rates are often less than the winter rates, but I doubt they'll be less than the 15.7. And even if they are, if they're like 15 cents even, I think you'll still come out ahead for the year. Because your greatest savings doing that. So that was for the town buildings. Now what we're talking about is called municipal aggregation, or sometimes community electricity aggregation, where you'll be asking for a town meeting vote to authorize the selectmen to go out to bid all town residents. You can go to the next slide. That's Mass General Law, Chapter 164, Section 134, which allows the town to go out for a vote. And if the town votes accordingly, the select will be authorized to buy electricity for the residents. Next slide. And what it means is you're going out to bid for probably 3,400 residential accounts.
Did I
Back,
skip
back
one?
one, yeah.
It's okay.
Okay,
All right, so why municipal aggregation? One is because you buy power for residents, and there's potential savings, as we did for the town accounts, for town buildings. You can buy for anywhere from 12 to 48 month increments. 6 months is sort of a common one. You have the option of getting more green energy than the state requires if you so desire. And when I did this in Southeast, we had some towns that said we want 100% green energy. Then we had other towns that said, forget this green energy stuff. We want the lowest prices. Get us what you get
Probably
us.
we're gonna-
Oh, but that's something that the selectmen and maybe your energy committee will give us direction. We want so much green energy equal to what the state has. You have to have that. 50% more than the state, or 100% more, and you can pick that as we get down the road. This also gives you a chance to offer residents a chance to have a lower electricity cost and not be subject to some of these predatory third parties. They will offer, if your current Unitel rate is 21 cents, they might offer someone 15 cents a kilowatt for the first 90 days, which sounds good. I've heard horror stories of them then coming back 5 cents more a kilowatt hour than the local utility. And then when the resident objects, they charge $300 to cancel. So we don't have any of that with this. Residents can opt out at any time. There's no penalty. And as a former town official, this is one of the few things that the select board and the town administrator can do that actually will lower the cost of things for residents. You're going to have painful discussions on budgets, but whatever you do, you're still going to have some sort of an increase in your budgets. Here's a chance to concretely lower the cost for residents that's in their electricity. So what changes with municipal aggregation is that you will be combining all 3,400 or so households into one purchasing block. It gives you purchasing power, and no pun intended, that's probably equal to or better than any other industry, single industry in towns. Sometimes these municipal purchases are combined with other towns. So now you have the potential of being 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 times your size by combining with other towns. That will be determined upon when you decide to go to market and what other towns that Good Energy is working with that also are on the same time cycle.
Doesn't Good Energy do Fitchburg? I thought so.
Yeah.
So,
And they do 30 other communities or more in Massachusetts.
right.
And when I did the one in the Southeast, we did 24 communities, plus they would then be in sync when they roll over with other communities.
Yeah, so I thought that depending on the timing, we might be on our own for a limited period of time, and then we get rolled in with those 30 communities.
Exactly correct. And they might decide that the best thing for Townsend is do a 12-month contract, because then you'd be in sync with several other towns. Maybe it's 36 months. It depends on
When they re-up on their contract, whatever they have, sort of catch up with it.
But this is a great way to get real purchasing power, because you're buying for not just one individual household, 3,400 if it's Townsend, and several times that if it's other towns. All that changes is the generation source of electricity. Unitel doesn't generate electricity. They buy electricity in the open market. And the distribution charges, that's probably 50% of your bill, is the distribution charges, so that won't change. Unitel is still going to be the one that provides electricity. And I emphasize here, it's Unitel that people call when they have problems with electricity or problems with the bills. They don't call town hall for that. They don't call Good Energy. They call Unitel. Unitel doesn't really care. They're just buying electricity from source that you select versus the source they select.
Now, the rate that they do to provide service, basically the rate for renting the poles and the line that comes from you, is that a fixed rate or does that go up and down in the summer?
It doesn't go up and down in the summer. It does periodically change when they petition the Department of Public Utilities and say they need more. And they've done that recently when they've said they need that. So
Okay, but it
This year-
doesn't have that fluctuation.
this year, the generation cost went up dramatically. And their distribution costs went up. So the residents are seeing big increases in their bills.
Okay.
The reason this program works is because they can go out to bid when the market is best. The Department of Public Utilities tells National Grid, Eversource, and Unitil, you must go out to bid in this time frame. So they went out to bid late last fall in a window that DPU set. And that's when everybody was talking about gas prices going through the ceiling, and natural gas going through the ceiling, there being shortages. So they ended up buying electricity at the wrong time of the year. Good Energy will wait. They might say, well, we're not going to do it in September, we'll do it in November, or vice versa. So they get to pick, and that's why their rates are better. So I sent you this weekend a 20-page document I'm sort of summarizing it for you, but that document will end up being 100+ pages that they will submit to the DPU. And that will include their plan, how they're going to implement that, how they can treat everybody fairly. It will show the marketing material. It'll be rather extensive. And as I sort of said, the town is not required to go to bid at any time. Based upon when all the paperwork is done with DPU, Good Energy will pick the time that is most advantageous to the town. You can select the characteristics you want. You can get just the standard power with the minimum green energy that the state requires, or you can get more green energy. That's something we'll be looking for direction from you.
Is it really green energy as the only thing that we select? Is that the
I
only?
think there's an option to select time-based metering if Unitil has it.
Okay.
And so for people that have heavy draw, like it might be the washing machine, the dishwasher, or the electric vehicle charging, they have a time-based meter. Usually it's cheaper to run those big appliances in the nighttime than it is in the daytime. So if that is set up, that could be another option that is.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So time-based, meaning the rate will decrease at certain times during the day.
Right, because there's less power being used at 2 o'clock in the morning than there is at 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
Okay.
So some power companies will give you an incentive by having a meter that actually tracks your electricity by the hour. I don't know whether Unitil does that.
We'll just have to find out from Unitil if that's the option they have.
I don't ever remember.
Um,
Okay,
One key piece of this municipal aggregation is that everybody will be in the program. So if they don't want to be in the program, they will have postcards, and there'll be web pages and phone numbers where they can opt out.
So I'm thinking, and just help me understand this. The reason you might want to be opt out is if you're getting your electricity through solar and selling it back to Unitil, would you be able to sell back to Good Energy?
Those solar contracts would continue on their own, because you're usually, even if you're selling back to Unitil, you're usually buying some amount of electricity from Unitil.
But can you,
So
if
you could
you
be,
opt in and don't do anything,
it
like
won't
what
change
happens?
your solar contract, but it will change whatever power you've been buying from Unitil.
okay,
The other people who would be excluded from participating are people who've already gone out to get a competitive electricity source. So DPU allows that now. Anyone here could go out and get their own competitive source. Some of those, as I explained, are predatory and not necessarily good deals. You're providing a deal to do that. But if someone's already signed up for that type of arrangement, they're not in the pool. Otherwise, everybody is in the pool. And the rationale for that is that if you did it as an opt-in option,
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
people will ignore those postcards and just throw it away and not do anything. What this allows is Good Energy to go to the power companies, the generating companies, and say, look, I'm going to give you 85% of these households, because that's how many people always stay in. And that gives you better purchasing bidding power than this.
but there must be rationale where it makes sense other than there's going to be a $500 fee because you're already in something. Is that the only one piece that you can think of, a reason to opt out, or can you give me?
They wouldn't have the
direction
option
for-
to opt out. They wouldn't be in the pool if they're already. in
No,
the
I'm saying
competitive.
why, if somebody comes up to me and says on the street, you know, what, should I opt out? What, you know, I could say the only reason it makes sense to opt out if you already have, like, is there anything other things you can think of?
That's it. If
That's
they've
fine.
already gotten power on their own, and if they bought power last year and they're still under that agreement, they might have a lower rate than what this aggregation got,
Yeah,
because they were buying before all these power companies raised their rates. So Unitil's at 21 cents,
Right.
National Grid's at
but
31 cents.
still the wise thing to do is have them talk to somebody and tell them, keep monitoring it and make sure it's not expensive to leave and keep an eye on this, because they can come in anytime.
They can opt in
Whenever
6
they
months,
want.
9 months
Mhm.
later, yes. But
Mhm.
Good Energy will not come and undo someone's already arranged purchase plan.
Okay.
But otherwise, everybody's already.
But having solar panels is not a good reason to opt out.
No, because usually they're paying some amount of electricity from the grid. Most solar panels are designed to be like 75 or 85% of your total need.
Thank you.
The aggregation plan that I sent you will have more details on how the public's gonna have exposure to this. There's gonna be public hearings, there's gonna be meetings. We would meet with, in the past, we've met with Council of Aging and Senior Center because they've got an audience that somebody's watched this. We would meet anybody you wanted us to meet with. There'd be mailers, there'd be postcards. The DPU will get an updated plan, in which case there will be another public hearing to go through that. So we would ask this board to set up probably 2 public hearings between now and our goal is to have it ready for your May town meeting.
So we should plan to have this in March public hearing, frankly.
Yeah, we'll see how the marketing material goes. I mean, I think it could be late February to have the first public hearing, and then, you know, we would revise the plan based on anything we hear from the residents.
So at what point do they go and get the raise?
After town meeting votes to authorize you to do this,
Okay,
and after DPU has approved the plan,
okay.
then they go out to bid.
So we're approving the plan, we have the town look at it and the town says, yes, we think this is a good thing to do. And then it goes to DPU and out for bid. And once the bid, I know we had this happen with the town buildings. Once they go out for bid, I mean, we had accepted a rate and then we found out that we couldn't accept that rate because the rate was no good anymore.
There's a very short term on these bids.
Yeah.
I think for these particular ones, I think that you would be authorizing me. Because I think the bids are good for like an hour. You'd be authorizing
okay,
me
that's what-
before any bid had happened to sign a bid that's lower than X rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'd have to give them.
And then I would be there for when they would come with the bids and we would sign right
then and
there.
there.
When I did this in the southeast, we did it with 23 communities. Good Energy actually rented a hotel room and had display and had 23 contracts. And there were 23 representatives from each town who had been authorized, whether it be the chair of the board or the town administrator, to sign the contract. And they must have had a dozen of their employees there handing out contracts and getting them all signed. But to see the bid come in and post it on the screen and then everybody run around with contracts, it was really pretty dramatic. But in that case, they locked in a rate that was 30% less than the going rate, and they locked it in for 3 years.
Yeah.
So we have to get a range of rate that we lock in at town meeting
No, we just
Town
get the
meeting.
authority to do
to
this.
do
to
it.
do
Okay,
it.
Yes.
okay, thank you.
When we get closer, because you don't know until the bids are due what the rate would be. So to Eric's point, I would suggest the board at that point say anything less than this rate, go ahead and sign it. And we'll be able to coach
I
you.
did that before, though.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Well,
but eventually we did it and it worked.
Yeah. Okay,
Well,
We were
I
slow on the draw.
mean, you could do it with a full board meeting, or you could do it
we'll
with a
take
board.
it as a learning experience.
Yeah, it was just a trial run, for the real,
Right, for
the
that
real thing.
big one, right. With what this is. So.
But in all, I mean, this is. I am so glad that we've moved forward with this because this is something that we can say that, yes, we've heard the townspeople and this is what I hear all the time, especially on,
Facebook.
well, I wasn't gonna say that, but
Social media.
social media. But this is, something that I think has been an issue in town for a very long time, the amount of, the cost of Unitil. And if we can do something to reduce that for our townspeople, then, let's move forward with it and put our 100% behind it.
Well, and you also will avoid the twice a year sticker shock when your rate comes out.
Yes.
Because you'll pick some period of time, 12 to 48 months to smooth it out.
It's interesting because right now, and people have asked me about this, they've seen us talk about it before. Right now, Ashby is at like 11.5 cents. Because they've locked in a rate
They do get good energy.
that's
too.
11.5 cents. You know, right now,
Should be able to join.
I will admit, I didn't pay as much attention as I should, and I found out that I have been opted in to the one in Melrose, and I pay like 12 cents a kilowatt hour. But I didn't even know I was a part of it, but for the last several years, I've just been getting this great rate.
Well, that's probably what will happen here for a lot of people who don't realize that
We're doing this, yeah.
And they don't come to town meeting and they don't pay attention to the meeting.
But they will, the
So,
good thing about this is that they'll save too, right? Like,
yes,
we're gonna be saving it for every member of town,
It's everybody's.
you know?
I'm not gonna suggest that they're gonna get 11 cents a kilowatt.
Yeah,
hour
that's-
this program. But if it's not less than the Unitil rate, basic rate, then they won't do it.
right.
So it's almost, you can't lose, because if it's not a good rate, they just wait.
Wait till the market's right.
So the previous meeting, you selected Good Energy to do this for you. They're gonna develop the plan, they're gonna manage the procurement process. They will do all the public education, and there's postcards and websites. I talked to Kathy, your town clerk, last week, and she said there's very few non-English speaking people in Townsend, but all the literature will have a translation connection. So if somebody wants to get it translated to whatever their language of choice is, those options will be done. When we did this in New Bedford and Fall River, we did it in like 7 languages. And they have the capability through this translation source to do it for whatever your population might need to do this.
Okay.
We'd like to do some informational meetings, broadcasts on TCAMs. We would schedule some time to come in and explain to people on TCAM how it would work.
So just thinking timeline, because I like timelines. We're looking at late February for the first public hearing of this aggregation plan. It'll be amended based on the public hearing. And then we'll have another hearing on the amended plan, probably late March. And then the literature will go out in April before town meeting. And we'll have the town meeting vote. Is that true?
Yes, we may get the literature out earlier. We're going to try to get as many people aware of this as possible. In a few towns in the southeast, and residents said, I don't want to selectmen buy electricity for me. I don't trust the selectmen to buy electricity. Hopefully, we can have enough public information that we'll get over that hurdle.
Yeah, one of the things I think is really effective is showing people this is what if this is where you could be if we'd done this. You know, this is what other towns that have done this are getting, and this is, there are going to be towns that don't do this, and in a couple of years they're going to be looking at us and saying, "I wish we had done what Townsend did and get in," because the rates are not going to go down. I mean, they're.
Yeah, I mean, if you skip way ahead, there's a slide that shows hypothetical.
That's like this one.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So the numbers themselves don't apply now because this is an outdated slide, but it shows you there are times when the utility is charging less than the aggregation. The aggregation is the green line that sort of goes across the middle there. There are times, like during the summers, when the utility has a lower rate. But if you look at the area of the graphs above there, most of the time, the utilities were charging more and the aggregation had a better deal. And this is how I think these type of purchases work. The same for the town billings we did this fall. Util summer rate could be less than the 15.7. Probably not significant. And I think that'll be the same case in this case. We cannot promise people or guarantee people that there will be a savings. I don't think they would enter into a contract that doesn't show you a good rate.
But I think the reverse of that is that this is more of a steady rate that can be budgeted as opposed to
Yes.
what's my bill gonna be next month, kind of thing. And I think
Absolutely.
that's the biggest selling point for me anyway, is to say, this is what our cost is gonna be, and this is the way it's gonna be for 3 years or whatever we buy it for at the term. And I think that would be the big sell for me.
And I think too, once we are on the cycle with the other towns, we'll see an even greater saving. So it might be a year or 2 or 3 of whatever, and then there could be an even better deal.
Correct.
Well, I think you'll beat them in the winter rates and you might come out a little bit light on the summer rates, but all in all, it's saving. So Good Energy is providing all of this work. They charge a 10th of a cent per kilowatt. And they charge that through the competitive supplier, and that gets put in the bills. So that the town itself does not get billed, the residents don't see a separate bill. That 10th of a cent is added to that big quote.
Mhm.
And that's just for the consultant.
That's for Good Energy to manage this program.
And is that in perpetuity?
It's for the length of your contract, 12, 24, 36, 48-month contract.
And that's based on our town figures. I mean, the number of people in our town, that's just for our town.
That's a rate that DPU may require. I mean, I know they've thrown out some consultants that have tried to charge more, and this is the rate
But
that
I mean, like, it's based on 3,500 people in our town.
the 10% a kilowatt is what Good Energy has been charging to all the towns across Massachusetts.
Okay, so figure average house, $100,000, 100,000 watts per year, 10%, that's $35,000 a year, and a population of 3,500 homes. That's my math right?
I'm not sure, but
My math right? Average house is $100,000, 100,000 watts a year, 0.0001, about $35,000. Yeah, that's a good deal, I think.
yeah, and I mean,
It's not an exorbitant fee.
Right, for a consultant.
So,
But I don't know,
But they
are
have
we
a lot of
being, is it just for our $35,000 home, or is it for, like, if we are in Fitchburg, are we paying for Fitchburg?
no,
homes
we're
too?
not. We're only paying for.
Yeah, so Lowell has gone through this process and has been in the aggregation for probably a decade. But they pay the same. That's the same fee that they pay.
Okay.
0.001 per kilowatt hour.
Mhm.
That's.
But it's based on the, right, so, okay,
So the larger the town, the.
right,
more
but it's
the
just
smaller the
their
bill.
town. So with only. like
Oh, yeah, I mean,
say,
well, it's
35,
per person. That's
Well,
on
per
your bill,
household.
so like, your house pays a certain percentage of that fee. So every person, and if more people join in, they get a greater rate from the town, and if people leave, they get a less rate from the town, but it's per house, so
the state also allows you to add to that 10th of a cent for money to go to the town if you want to use it for some sort of a energy efficiency program.
But I guess where I'm getting confused, like when you talk about aggregating and getting a good price with all that Fitchburg and this and that and that, when we end up paying this per person, do they separate out Townsend's per person? I don't think I'm making it clear what I'm asking.
It's just 0.001 per kilowatt hour, period, the end.
And
Don't make it more difficult.
well, and that's embedded in your bill from Unitil.
Okay.
So you don't see it as a separate call out. What you'll see is, I'm gonna say it's Constellation Energy is the
Okay.
vendor that wins.
So it's on each individual bill. Okay,
So if
What-
it came
what
out
if you had-
0.11,
if
I
you-
get
it would be 0.111.
The bonus to this is the more people they have in the pool, the stronger buying power that they have. They can get a better rate for it.
Yeah.
But the rate per person is still gonna be the same.
Yeah,
Or per
because
household. is
it's
still
on,
gonna be-
it's on per house.
Yeah, and Good Energy is incented to have people stay in the program and to keep people happy.
Correct.
And they have done this historically throughout Massachusetts of keeping residents happy.
Mhm.
So we could add an administrative, we could add our own 0.001 to the bill for the town if to be used for energy efficiency purposes. Including staffing. The staff and energy efficiency program.
She just said, don't make it complicated.
No, but if we
But that's a
have
good idea.
something on and use it for salary for staff,
Well, but it would only for staffing to do, to deal with the energy. So we have to have an energy efficiency program and that staffing could only be for that.
and does green community, like, could that be specific support for green communities as well? Could it be used for that? Just a thought. We don't have to answer that right now. Something to think about, but if we could get staffing for energy efficiency, which green communities is, the grant that we have.
Mhm.
That might
We'd have to check. I'm trying to remember what and I know that the person who is on staff. I'm just,
Well, I will find
Yeah,
out what
not a
could be
bad
done with
thing.
that, because I know there's a limit. DPU doesn't want to see people adding, surcharges to this rate. The intent is to get a lower rate for residents,
Yes.
not to add money. But if it's a small amount and you've been using for something that qualifies, I can find out for you.
Yeah, that would be good.
I know it funded half of an energy manager. And like a quarter of that person's boss who ran the energy aggregation program in Lowell. So it was, that's what they used there.
That's a whole program, so they did need to have staff. for that.
Yeah, and there's a program and they do, outreach and they have energy efficiency programs that work on a town.
That may be more infrastructure you want to create, but it's worth
Right.
asking and exploring that.
For our little piece of the
So-
pie here.
Explain this one, additional renewable supply certified by REC. One REC is created for every 1 megawatt hour renewable electricity generated. So what happens with those RECs here? Who gets the REC?
Recs go to to people that are generating electricity or using electricity. So that's a way to sort of subsidize moving into renewables. So getting someone to fund wind turbines or solar panels can be funded from the recs. These recs come from this.
Are they associated with the town or what are they, or are they associated with the utility or? What, in other words, will the town as a whole, since all of us would be opted into this, would the town be receiving RECs?
Not the town, no, it's other users or generators of electricity would be getting them.
Okay, whoever the electricity is being purchased from in the contract, okay,
It's a way to sort of help fund renewables. So instead of putting up and buying electricity from a wind turbine, you get these recs that will help fund that sooner or later.
okay.
And I think the state's requiring like 15% of the electricity has to be green energy. And then the question is, how much more do you want to add on top of that? So you can go anywhere from the minimum amount of roughly the 15% green energy all the way up to 100%. And by the time we get there, we'll be able to tell you sort of what the cost difference is. I'm doing that. It might be a full cent a kilowatt, it might be half a cent.
Who decides that? Do we decide that in the warrant article?
Not in the warrant article. You decide that when you go out to bid.
Like the bid.
So we have to. The,
The warrant article won't say anything about it. It's decided by the board of selectmen.
okay.
It's giving us
after
the
fact.
permission to be able to negotiate that.
Okay, all
And as part of I think it would be a good idea as part of the outreach for that to be a part of it, let us know what provide us feedback as to whether you want us to go green or not go green. Increase it or not.
And I will verify. I think some of that green energy choice may be individual, residents can make the choice.
Really?
versus the
Even
whole
with, in other words, there would be a bid for a certain percentage and a bid for another percentage?
Well, they give you the menu, which is like, this is your basic rate, which is what we would sign the agreement on, and then, but it was also say, this is your 50% green energy rate, this is your 100% green energy rate.
My guess is people are going to use the lowest rate that we can get.
You think so, but there
Yeah,
are some
Depends
people
what
who,
the premium, if the premium's 2 or 3 cents to be 100% green, people will probably say no. If
I
the
know.
premium is half a cent
Maybe.
or less, they might say yes, but
I
Okay.
know people here in Townsend that have financial advisors, and I have spoken to them, and they'll pick stocks by the green markers on their stock, even though they're not performing as well as other stocks, because it's important to them.
Okay.
Their social awareness and greenness and all of that.
and when you have that
As
menu,
long as they're making some money.
it enables you to look and see like, okay, maybe not 100%, but maybe I can do the 50%, because that delta is,
If it's important to them.
All right, next one.
so next steps is we've got to do a whole mess of public outreach to explain to the public what they're getting into and why they should trust the selectmen to buy electricity for them. And we'll be doing this in multiple formats, up to town meeting, plan goes to DPU, and the RFP goes out.
Okay, so our part is these first two bullets.
Yep.
Your part, or Green Energy's part, is down here.
well, and the bullet number 1.
Bullet
Yeah.
number 1,
They will help,
we'll set up the meetings that they will present.
yes, and they'll help coach you on what meetings they think you ought to have, but I would also look for you to say, should we talk to the senior center? That's always been a hot spot in the past, but you can pick that. If there's another organization that we should talk to. When I did this in Southeast, I think I was in for 6 meetings per town to cover everybody that wanted to have it, hear about it. And
Okay.
the opt-out process happens after they know what the price is.
Do you think it's a good idea to like drop a hint at the next week's meeting?
Oh, at the town meeting?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, you can talk about, I think you've got a warrant article to fund some increased utility bills. And you can say the town has done this to reduce the town's utility bills through signing.
It's kind of like a more to follow. type
And
of
we'd
thing.
like to, yes, I think that's,
We want to reduce everybody's.
yeah.
And this is how.
I don't want to go into a long diatribe, but
Okay.
wait, there's more.
You had a filibuster there at the town meeting, and
That's just sort of example of some of the stuff we've done in other towns. The smiling face in the bottom would be something we do on TCAM.
Now, this town with the choose 100%, they must have had, it was opt-in then, right?
yeah, that's the city of Melrose.
It is.
That's the one that I
And they
was
didn't,
just opted into without,
you had
I
to.
made a lot of
instead of
It's a very good idea to give out
No,
to
but
the library.
you didn't have to opt in, but that sign up for 100% renewable energy was, you could, when you choose,
Oh, I see.
you automatically got the default rate unless you chose to pick one of the premium plans.
Yeah.
You know,
Make it less contentious.
Earth Day is, I think, April 22nd here this year. We could set up a table. It might be a good place. for
Yeah,
public
that would be a
outreach,
really good,
because a lot
and
of
that's
people.
well
go to that.
attended, yeah,
Yeah.
we attended, it's at the
Where
high
is
school
it?
again this year.
At the high school?
It's good.
Yeah. That's usually on a Saturday.
And,
Monday's Sunday.
you can ask that you're along, Main Street, so you can put something up
Yeah, I think we should.
right,
target that.
from the plaza. What
And
do they
it's
call
right
that?
before, it's that weekend, right before the town vote and then town meeting. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
perfect
like, yeah,
timing.
you got like, 10 days there.
and-
Primary parking.
Karen's gonna put out the flyer for, hey, if you want a booth.
Can you get a booth for us?
All right,
Please and thank you.
Facing the parking. lot.
booth,
Do you
And
want
we
to,
can have
Anything-
bookmarks there and,
parking lot.
I like the bookmark idea, but
I don't know.
no, shopping center.
Shopping center, right?
You need them
Face the
up.
Main Street. Who is it?
Karen Clemens.
Karen Clemens. It
Um,
might be taken over by this.
They have a Facebook page. Listen to their Facebook page.
Well,
Anyway.
as soon as we start developing this, I'll be back with Eric and then you to see, you know, if you like what we're doing. I want to redirect it. But I think it's any place you think we should publicize this program, that's what we're gonna do.
I would do the
I'm gonna
churches,
forward you.
the senior center, a town hall meeting. TCAM, who else? We could put bookmarks at the VFW. We could make napkins.
Oh, don't. Don't.
Okay,
Next thing you know, we'll be knitting stuff.
Your true personality is showing, man.
sorry. Very rare. All right, so,
You type in your email.
All right.
It's my Gmail.
That's it. So we will be back in touch with you sort of as we start developing the marketing material and have more input for the marketing plan, the implementation plan.
all right.
I think you should plan to see us once a month, and probably more so as we get closer.
Yeah, I think we need to maybe target some dates so that in February for a meeting and do that.
We should kind of earmark some dates for late February and early March, just to get them on the calendar. Okay.
All right.
I agree. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
good to see you all again.
Good to see you. And we'll be seeing you at least once a month. Going forward.
Hopefully we'll see you in your regular shoot.
March 9th, I get out of the group.
Oh, boy,
All right.
that's a long time.
Yeah. Started the group in May. You know, it's hard to find drivers this time of night.
Yeah. True.
Thank you. Have a good.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
See you again, Ross.
Hope to see you too.
All right, moving on to 4.2, planning board quorum issue. So Eric, I'm handing this to you.
Yeah, so this is just come to our attention from the planning board executive assistant, and I know that the chair is here as well. That they are struggling a little bit with quorum issues, especially when, as you folks know, but folks at home might not know, special permits require supermajorities. So you need to have out of a 5-member board, you have to have a vote of 4. So if you don't have 4 people at the meeting, there's a special permit can't be granted. You know that, so I think there is an associate member position that is open. So this is more of a plea to the public. You know, we're looking for a qualified planning board member to come in and who's willing to, you know, put in the time and participate. It's a really important part of our community to have a planning board that can, you know, effectively operate. And we want people to have, you know, fair hearings. We want them to be able to have equitable hearings, so they don't have to wait around to get a quorum. You know, that nobody wants that. That stifles development and makes people feel frustrated, you know, if they can't get their quorum. So, you know, we haven't gotten any volunteer response forms, I don't think, for the planning board. I think you know, because it is an elected board, it would be a joint, we would set up a joint meeting with the planning board to appoint someone after, you know, we've gotten a volunteer response form, but I thought this was important enough to put it as an agenda item that we really need, you know, someone to come forward from town to be on the planning board. It's really, really critical. And so if there's anybody out there who's interested.
I think that in addition, just looking at the openings that Kathy put up on the website for the town vote, I think there are 2 planning board openings. And Laura, you can correct me if I'm wrong. One is a 5-year position and one is a 4-year position. So it must be a resignation. So two regular positions in addition to the associate.
Right, so. Yes, it's more of echoing the town clerk's plea for people to get elected. We can get you in before the election. We can get you on that board early. If you want to be an associate member, we can get you on. But it's really critical that we have, good qualified people, and the people who are on the planning board work really hard, they're doing a good job. They've had a lot on their plate so far this year, and I think it would be really great if we could get them some help so that, these the special permits don't have to run into the issue with the quorum. So that was my pitch.
Thank you. All right, so hopefully someone will come forward for that. Moving on to 4.3, this is, we have a request from the Mass Department of Fish and Game for a letter of support to purchase 2 landlocked parcels abutting Fish and Game property in Townsend. So I am going to once again attempt to share my screen. Give me a minute. Back to the screen. All right, so these 2 parcels are off of Pierce Road and South Row Road. So this is South Row right here, and Pierce is over here.
Yeah.
Right up in here.
Yes.
And the 2 parcels are the ones that are in red here. Is that showing up? Yeah, or maroon, whatever. So these are the 2, they're landlocked parcels. They're on map 23, parcels 24-0 and parcel 38-0, both on map 23. And they are purchasing them from the owner, and they would like the Board of Selectmen to provide a letter of support for the purchase. So we have that. It looks like it's in there. Is that correct, Sabrina? Yeah. So I think it's not the iodized one. It's the support letter, I think. That bottom one.
Courtesy letter.
Is that it? No, that's the request from us. All right, I'm gonna stop the screen share.
And can you just tell me, Madam Chair, does the purchase alone by the Fish and Game property automatically make them basically Fish and Game?
Yes,
Okay, there's no other requirement. You don't have to.
No other hurdles. There wouldn't be any conservation
you can
protection
fit it.
unless Fish and Game wanted to do some additional protection. They hold it, they've got it.
thought I saw it in here.
There's payment of property taxes.
That usually comes with, yes, they will, when they close on it, they will, Fish and Game will purchase.
Yeah.
What it is part of the purchase, they will pay the back.
Right,
tax.
once acquired, DFG will pay the remaining real estate taxes on the property for that fiscal year and the full real estate tax bill on the property the following fiscal year.
Oh, it's DFG.pdf. The letter of support. Do you want me to pop this up there?
Yes, please. I was very happy to see this.
All right, so it's here, it's to Christy Edwards, the Department of Fish and Game, and it's a letter from us that says the town of Townsend is in support of the Massachusetts Department of Fisheries and Wildlife purchasing 2 small parcels of land, 3.5 and 5 acres, is reported on Assessor's Map 2338-0 and 2324-0 off Pierce Road, located in the town of Townsend. That's it. And I thought we were all 3 to sign. I think on the iodized letter, all of the selectmen sign.
I'm in support of it. If I need to sign it, I will.
All right, so should we just have a motion to support the purchase of these parcels and to provide a letter to Mass Fishing Board?
Just get that. Give me 1 second, please.
And we're gonna stop this motion.
I make a motion that the selectmen sign a letter providing support for the purchase of 2 properties to the Massachusetts Department of Fish and Game. Excuse me, let's start again. I make a motion supporting, providing a letter to the Massachusetts Department of Fish and Game, supporting the purchase of 2 landlocked parcels abutting fish and game properties in Townsend, parcel 2324-0 and 23-38-0, lot parcel of. Messed it up again.
No, I think it's good.
That is good right there. I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Teresa, how do you vote?
Sweet thing, yeah.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Kelly. Wow. Moving on, 4.4, this is to review the proofs. And let me get these up there.
I have hard copies as well.
Like that. Okay. That one out. Well, do we need to make a decision on those?
I think they're looking for some guidance about both the language and the shape. So I think the language is identical, the language is what they came up with. It's on both versions of the headstone. So as long as the board is comfortable with that language.
And just to be clarified, when you say they, that you meant the group that first came to us.
The British Commonwealth Project, or the folks who are proposing this.
Gonna try to get these both live. And then try to share. Yeah, here. Guess I'm gonna do it one at a time. So this is one option.
And the purpose of this is just to discuss the marker, not about placement and not about,
Right.
what it's doing, just the marker.
Right. Okay, and let me see if I can.
Oh,
switch it to
do that again. You did it.
I did.
You did it.
So here's the one.
If
It's
you
more rounded.
Yeah, if you hold your cursor over it,
There you go. You get 2 of them.
you get 2 of them.
For the-
Oh, like that.
Yeah.
So I think the words are the same.
The words are the same on both of them,
Yeah.
so it's just the shape is the classic kind of gravestone shape of the half oval. And the other one is the one with the kind of like looks like a fancy
Open
window,
door.
like with the.
Some thing.
So when I
That's the technical name for it, I
Yes,
think.
it's
when I first looked at it,
the little bumpy thing.
I thought that the death of the Great War was kind of weird wording, that it wouldn't, I thought it would say World War I, but the organization that asked for this, it's up to them, the choice, and I guess what you said makes a lot of sense. They wouldn't have called it World War One because they wouldn't have known there was a second one.
And
To
the
come
US
at
wasn't in it yet, correct? So for us, it wasn't World War One.
This was the Great War, that's what people fought in it.
And it wasn't the war to end all wars at that time, that those are later. And press release
Yeah.
name. So I'm sure that's what the soldiers called it at the time, so that.
Well, I don't know, what do you guys think? I like the rounded one better. When I look at them, I like the rounded one better. But then when I think, this is a monument, not
Yeah.
a gravestone. Then if I think of it that way, I like the rectangular one better.
That's
So,
why I like the non-rounded one better. I think it looks more like a monument to the person.
And
I agree with that.
Yeah,
So,
Unanimous. Oh, that's
yeah. Not bad.
not
huh?
bad, yeah.
All right, so let me bring this in. So that's the one that we prefer.
Mhm.
And so so for folks who weren't here when the British Commonwealth project, which you may be watching, who weren't here when they made their presentation. This individual was a Townsend resident who, before the United States entered the war, went and joined the Canadian forces that were fighting in Europe, and died, fighting under the the British Commonwealth flag, and was the first resident of Townsend who died during the war, because the United States hadn't entered it yet. And we are talking about, selecting, and approving a monument that will go at some location in town. But I agree with the choice of the board. I think that looks like a monument,
Mhm.
monumental.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So I will let the British Commonwealth project know that they can proceed with that shape and the language that they provided, so they can start the carving.
All right, 4.5, Mass Trails grant. You have nothing to look at yet because I don't have it done. So what we are submitting for it, I talked to Amanda who runs the program today. So we are going to submit for design, engineering and construction. And I'm using to the best of my ability what can be taken from the Shield Street screen. And they told me that we could use the community thing that we did last year
Mhm.
as part of that, the community outreach piece or other things like that. And we'll see where to get. It's the connector for the rail trail, and Mass Trails has funded certain
Portions of the rail
sections of the rail trail, and they understand the importance of needing to connect it. They told me to call it a shared path, not a sidewalk, because it won't be
Won't
just.
get passed by a sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, there is more to do there. So I'm not ready yet, but we
Like
should
shared
have,
path thing.
and we should have something to look at next week. So what I need is for you to trust that Eric and I, because he'll work with me on it, will put something together, and if we get something that we are happy with, that you guys would support us submitting it in February.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, and we will give you next week. If we don't have something by next week, that's worth reviewing.
Right.
Then we're fine.
Okay.
But
A
that's.
whole other weekend.
Exactly. So, all right, thank you. All right, the next one is the MOU. And was there anything in there?
There are documents in each one of those.
Keep on trying to move the mouse from one computer to the other, and it's not working.
Magic mouse, that would be interesting.
But they're not in here.
Did you include the hard copies on?
Yeah. They're in here?
Yeah. They're not ordered.
Oh, they're at the front. That's the front. So the first one is supervisor union regarding a stipend for the water superintendent. So do you want to talk about this today?
Yeah, this is the one that we brought to the board at the last meeting, and the board's request was that we go out and meet with the union and make sure that the union was okay with this and bring it back. We had a union meeting last week. I'm meeting with the union rep, and I talked to the vice president, and they so that's been signed off on. So if the board is ready to move forward with it and authorize me to sign it, go ahead and move forward.
So do we want to discuss or do we want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
Okay,
to authorize the MOU with the supervisors union regarding the stipend for water superintendent.
and is there a second?
Second,
All right, discussion.
I'm glad to see that signed. So good. I'm okay with it.
All right, Teresa, how do you vote?
Teresa A. Marsh, yes?
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes?
And Veronica Italia. And we're authorizing Eric to come.
Correct.
All
All right, so I will.
Out of session.
Thanks. I'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have my own copy even. I need to print out the color one. These were black and white, but I'll print out a color one so Bobby's signature doesn't look like it's photocopy.
Right, doesn't look like that. All right, so, the next one is, for water technicians to have, this is the MOU with the Water Highway Union regarding a tiered wage structure for water operators.
So this is in preparation for the hiring of the new positions that the Board of Selectmen authorized. The reality is that the way that the previous salary structure for the water technicians was laid out was you had the entry level salary, which was D1 on the grid. And you got no bump for licenses until you got all of them.
And where did you bump to when you got all of them?
Up to with all licenses was you were at D14 on the grid. So it effectively made it very difficult to hire any lateral people who didn't come in with all their licenses, because they would be hired at the lowest possible level. So that this tiered structure provides an incentive to both be able to bring in new lateral transfers with experience and to have them rapidly get their licenses because they can move up the grid, but it doesn't provide any, raises to folks who are already, on staff. The folks who already have all their licenses, this isn't moving the top and the bottom any. It's just creating a gradient in between to provide an incentive for lateral hires.
Okay, so can I ask a question? I don't really understand this two-step increase on the grid. Does that mean it goes to D2, then D3, then
So
D4?
You start at D1. If you had your treatment license, you would get a 3-step increase. You could go to D4.
So it's 3 steps from D1.
It's from whatever step,
Wherever
you are. So if you came in with your D1 and D2 licenses, you would start at D1, but you'd get 6 steps above that. So you'd be hired at D7.
I understand.
So the idea
That's
being,
Didn't make sense.
Yeah,
to
so
me.
you
I
could-
understand. So you don't have to get these in order,
and you don't have to have them all.
and that's why it's written this way.
Yeah.
Because you might get your treatment 1 before you get your distribution 1.
Right. You might have your hydraulics license when you start, but you might not,
Right.
So this is just the incentive would be because it's a struggle to hire right now. And because our rates we're not paying at the top of the market. I mean,
Right.
we're not, the low end of what we're paying is not enough to bring in someone who has any experience at all. They're not gonna come in at that rate. So to provide this kind of differentiation along the spectrum enables us to have someone come in and they can see that they're gonna get hired at a higher rate. And when they get these licenses, there's a measurable kind of a measurable bump in their pay to get those licenses to incentivize them getting them rapidly.
Okay. No, what did make sense to me was the two-step increase.
Yeah, and that's why it's laid out that way, because it's not an order, it's not a chrono, it's not. Obviously, you have to have T1, we have T2, but other, you know, you could get them in a lot of different orders.
Is there a motion?
That was a deep sigh.
So I want to make sure I'm clear what we're doing. So we're making a motion to vote. Are we making a motion to vote on it?
To approve
accept
the MOU.
MOU.
Yeah, to accept the, to authorize me to sign the.
Okay, to authorize the town administrator to approve the MOU with the water/highway union, the tiered wage structure for water operations.
Is there a second?
I'll second that with discussion.
So further discussion. Go ahead, John.
I don't remember this being put in front of the water commissioners,
Okay,
this discussion in front of the water commissioners, not that. I mean, I really do think this should have been run in front of them first before.
They voted on this,
When,
there, September, October. I think you weren't there though, but it was definitely voted on.
Okay, so this should be in minutes on the website, is that correct? If it was voted on?
I'm not sure when it was, but it definitely was voted on. And, well, actually, you were there. You actually made a comment.
that doesn't surprise me.
You said it,
Like, why do you get increases?
You've already- this was with the Misty one, and you said it was.
That's right. Okay, all right, I'm good with this. And
When was it?
I want to say
Yes.
it was the second Tuesday, the second Monday.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we have the commissioners okay.
Okay, it was not in. Next meeting is October
October
20th.
20th.
And there are no.
What would have been? It would have been meeting business. Was that a superintendent's report? Did you do it under that?
I can't remember, we talked about it. And they said that we already voted on this last meeting. And you said you affirmed that. And I just can't remember. I can't remember if it was August or September.
if you want, you can put a clause in there that I verify with the chair of the Board of Water Commissioners that they haven't.
I just want to make sure that we didn't use so
Yeah,
many.
oh, no, I totally agree. Yeah, we can.
Recently, we've had a lot of very long
Yeah.
water meetings.
But this is how we fixed Misty at the time.
Right.
But I can check with the chair of the Board of Water Commissioners and confirm that they have authorized this, like, get that, before I sign.
So, Madam Chair, I move that we amend the motion to include what Eric just said. Yeah.
All right, I'm good with that.
Okay.
And then Eric will check with the RW.
Yeah, I'll double check that.
All right, so Teresa, how do you vote?
Teresa, you moves with the amendment?
That yes?
Yes.
Chad Sexton, Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Kell. Okay. Good to go. Thanks, Dave, for staying.
It's one of those things that if I'm gonna hire somebody this spring, the course starts on the 18th of April.
Yeah.
And it takes me 6 months to a year to get anyone to do the basic, just the ones, which I can't even have in any of the wells without at least one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, so that is it for meeting business. Under the work session, ARPA projects, TA update.
We got free cash certified since our last meeting.
I saw that.
That's very exciting.
We can have a special town
And
meeting.
we can have our special and our supplemental special town meeting, even though I don't think that has the cash. I met with the FinCom, so they went through all the,
Do you want me to give the update of FinCom?
I can give you
You
update on
want to
FinCom.
do
I only got-
Well, the way I was done.
You were there. You would like to do it. I don't want to step on your toes. Yeah, so I will just say that I was at FinCom today and we went through the whole thing.
They are not recommending Article.
Well, no, you hear, they're coming back to recommend it on Tuesday. They're gonna meet at 11 o'clock on the 24th to change that from not recommend to recommend.
Which article is that?
The one about the account.
Accounting. They feel that the contract specifically says not to exceed $30,000 and they.
It's about the $35,000 from the end of
And
FY
they
20.
come back with a contract and ask for more money.
And I foolishly didn't have the contract in front of me. But I went and got the contract and I showed it to them at the end of the meeting and they're like, oh, if I'd seen this, I would have voted the other way. So I
Oh.
kicked myself. And Don's calling
I
a
wasn't
meeting.
there for that.
Don's calling a meeting at 11 o'clock on the 24th for them to recommend that. They recommended it.
Okay.
Except the school department is adamant that the $300,000 debt only belongs to Ashby. Doesn't have anything to do with towns,
Then
Which
why
is-
did they send it
which
back?
is inconsistent. Well, but because as they say, all the towns have to vote, but the debt only belongs to, they believe that debt is capital debt, which as we talked about, capital expenses go to the
town.
town, well,
With the students.
the town that has the students there. So I am getting that in writing from Nancy Haynes. I'm getting an opinion from Adam. If Adam agrees with her, and we have it in writing from the school department, then I think we should recommend no action on that.
Okay, that would be good, but let's make sure. because
Oh,
that
I'm
is
not doing it with
The
that.
way it reads.
That is not the way it reads, which is why I said to Nancy, you said 2 emails and you said this attachment and that, what you said to me over the phone is not what that says. But she's gonna say it explicit, she's gonna say it explicitly in an email. And then I'm gonna give that email to Adam with the copy of the regional agreement so he can verify whether or not
Okay,
he agrees. And as long as he agrees, my recommendation would be for that one that we take no action. The second tweak is one of the articles regarding the elevator
oh, we already did that.
was done with the reserve transfer. And the
Yeah.
FinCom would like to alter that article to put the money back in the reserve fund.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So we have the reserve, more reserve. We have the full reserve fund at the end of the year. Either way, it's gonna go into free cash.
Take it out.
We don't
The-
spend
The
it.
way it's written, it doesn't really, you can't say I'm taking it for the elevator because you
The
really,
elevator's already been paid.
it's already been paid.
So I think that's reasonable. If we don't spend it from the reserve fund, it goes into free cash at the end of the year anyway. But having it in the reserve fund is a way easier than calling another special town meeting or waiting until municipal transfers
Well-
at the end of the year.
How do we change the article?
That's what I have to go talk to Adam about. It's a
because-
motion. Somebody would have to make a motion.
To amend
To amend the
the
article.
article. To read a different way.
Yes.
And we
Okay.
have to, we do that all the time.
And so they have couch their response to that, the FinCom, if it's what it is now, they say we should take no action because we don't need it.
I agree.
And if it replenishes the reserve fund that they recommend.
Okay.
So I was just gonna check with Adam to see if he could come up with some language to transfer that,
Alright.
and that we'll have that motion. Other than that, they recommended everything else. And so that would leave us, if all of the things that are in the town meeting, the special town meeting are funded, we would have about $323,000 left in free cash
All right.
to have for,
Put some in-
well, we don't have to decide that, but I mean,
It's snow and ice. is what-
snow, but you know,
Yeah.
snow and ice is usually between 175 and 200,000.
And if we don't use it all this year, we should put some in for paving the roads that, you know,
Pavement management.
so plan like 200,000, and yeah, do pavement management plan if we can.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
So there's lots of people giving
I'm sure
suggestions
everybody's
about how
spending.
this should be spent. But
Right.
at least we're having that discussion instead of the discussion about what other should we do because we don't have
Like
any
to
free
put it in
cash.
something we've already discussed and agreed upon than to start deciding something else. you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Well, I think so. FinCom was like, could we put that into stabilization?
Well,
And I-
that's another option.
So-
It really is. So-
Splitting some of it to one, some of it to the other, or saving it like we did last year to roll over into next year. But putting it into stabilization is almost as
Let's get rid
good.
of the winter.
Yeah, yeah, let's do, but we do, I mean, we should have enough. We made it, you know, we're way below spending. And that, based on, you know, based on time so far. So far.
All right.
And that included the $75,000 for energy, which, you know,
We might not.
we
need as
might not
much.
need as much. It's hard to project now because our energy is not a straight line expenditure.
Right.
So, but, you know, that may create some more free cash at the end of this year. The $75,000 transferred into energy law.
That sounds good.
And that's,
Good to me.
that's the joint FinCom DA report.
So can I ask a question? Maybe it's something that we can talk about more, but, usually the past 2 years at this time of year, we're planning budget meetings on Saturday.
Yes,
Are we gonna be doing that in February? This is more for planning
yes.
purposes for the three of us than anything else.
Yeah.
So we are gonna be doing
I
that.
think we are gonna have at least one Saturday where,
Yeah, we did one long Saturday last year. but-
Yeah.
And then other years,
I think it was one last year. they
I
put
think it was one.
the
last
paperwork.
I
year.
was thinking the year before, I was like here every Saturday, I felt like.
There was one year where it was the year that Wayne and I won, or you might have been attending anyway, so you were probably right. Where we did every
Yeah.
Saturday, and then Joe joined us.
Yeah,
It was like
it's a
every
joint-
Saturday.
Yeah.
Meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
But last year we did it in one long week on a Saturday.
With
Well,
FinCom as well.
Oh, yeah. I think I was fine, yeah.
so,
Okay.
Because they talked about that at today's meeting too, as well. That's coming up soon, or coming up.
so, you know,
So keep your Saturdays in February free
yes.
for budget stuff. Okay. All right, thank you. Reports from board liaisons, general government, let's talk about capital planning.
What do we have to talk about?
All right.
It seems to me I was confused about capital planning when it was to
We had
be
two,
the
right?
liaison. I thought that meant when there was a meeting on the calendar that I would show up. But-
Didn't realize you were running it.
Confused.
No, and you know, in the past, we've named a chair and a vice chair and a clerk to write the minutes, et cetera, et cetera. But also in those years, we've had meetings beginning early in the year, like
Yeah.
December. So we're starting late, but we're starting tomorrow. And because we were both named in different months as the Board of Selectmen rep to the capital planning. I am more than happy to hand it right over to you, Teresa. But I did get all the Zoom links. The Zoom link was more for department heads if they wanted to attend, or if you want to attend via Zoom,
No, I'm.
head on home and then hop on. But basically, it's this week is just here's what we've got, the history, what we have from last year, what we did last year, what's left over. And review the 5-year capital plan and look at the policy for the capital plan. And then the next week is so it's every Wednesday at 5 o'clock from now until I think it's March 1st. And then Eric is the second week to tell the capital plan committee what money we've got. How much can we spend? What's realistic? And then we need to let the department heads know. And Eric, I'm assuming you're the person that lets them know they need to present their capital plans to us.
Yeah.
Department heads, we would schedule for the following 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks in February, first 2 Wednesdays in February. We have the third Wednesday, if there's a wayward department head who couldn't make the first 2, if we need to pick up 1 more or 2 more on that week and then do some deliberation. And then the following week is deliberate and finalize. And then the next week is finalized to turn over to the Board of Selectmen. So that's kind of how it's going to go. That's pretty much it.
So Madam Chair, can you explain to me the nuances between the planning committee, the master planning committee, and the capital planning committee?
Yeah, the planning board is an elected board. They are in charge by state law of the master plan. And they may choose to appoint a committee or not. And if they do appoint a committee, they are all ad hoc members of the committee. So in other words, the master plan committee is the planning board. And even if they appoint a committee, they are still ad hoc members of a separate committee. Capital planning is separate entirely from the planning board. And it is the capital plan for the town. So what major purchases over $10,000 are we, the town, going to need this year and 5 years? It's a 5-year
A
plan.
new plow, new fire truck, a new ambulance, that kind of stuff.
Computers, cell towers, communication equipment for the police department or the fire department, ambulances, anything $10,000 or over.
And does the ultimately
facilities
the capital plan roll into the master plan or the master?
No.
Capital plan rolls into the budget.
Separate,
It keeps up.
Capital plan rolls into the budget.
Okay,
It's completely different.
It's all about
from-
money and borrowing.
okay, thank you.
It is a plan, but it's nothing to do with,
So like the master plan won't have like a 5-year plan that we will fix infrastructure or things like this and have a budget number
I
attached to it.
mentioned
Yeah,
that
think
we're-
of the master plan as, the master plan is the planning board. That is the planning board, and the planning board can decide to appoint other members besides the planning board members to do the master plan. But the master plan really is the planning board's thing.
Right, but they don't set budgetary items to the ideas of the, okay.
The planning board is what does the town, the master plan is what does the town look like? What's our vision for the town? The capital plan is completely separate. It's under really the Board of Selectmen. And it's, what are we gonna need to buy? Keep this town running.
Yeah.
Right, so what
What do we need to
happens,
borrow?
I
What do we
think
need to
that,
buy?
I mean, we had one meeting last year. Like a week before the town meeting, so that we had both. but it was,
No, that was 2 years ago.
that was it. That was horrible. Yeah, that was, yeah,
She did a lot of capital planning that year.
we did. What are we doing here? Okay, all right, yes, we'll vote.
We did more.
But people,
last year.
people will say, you know, departments will say, I need a new truck, I need a new plow, I need a new this, and it all goes into that particular committee, and then the committee has a list of all of these things, and that committee will say, all right, this we can put in a 5-year plan, that in 5 years we'll get this, in 10 years we'll get this, but
Yeah.
right now,
So-
what are we?
So every capital expense should be part of a capital plan and
Yeah.
it should be tracked out over a 5-year or.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there is one that exists from last year.
Yes, last year had, like, this is what is in the 5-year plan last year, so that this year's committee can move it up, move it back, do whatever you guys.
Yeah.
want.
And you should potentially see if you have a fire truck, you should see a fire truck should have a lifespan of 5 years and you should
It
see.
should have
I think-
20-year life.
But
the
that it
payment
rotates in.
Should have a certain number of
Okay.
years that you're gonna.
Yeah, it's more about the payment if you're borrowing than it is about the lifespan of the vehicle.
That's it.
It's because what you're basically doing is when you're budgeting, you're thinking about how much can we borrow? We have these needs. How much can we borrow? How many of those needs fit into that borrowing? You know, like if we can borrow 100,000, if we can absorb $100,000 of debt payment added onto our debt, what does that factor out in vehicles
Right.
or equipment?
Okay.
You know,
Thank you very
And,
much.
and it also
That was
puts
good.
into perspective what we can, or what we're thinking of, whatever goes into the capital plan, you know, so we're not taking out of free cash, or we're not taking out, you know, we are planning for it so that in year 5 or whatever, hopefully that's when we're gonna be able to pay for it.
The capital expenses last year came entirely out of free cash,
except,
except for the borrow.
Yep.
I don't think anything, we didn't take any money out of the capital stabilization fund.
Yep.
Because there isn't that much in
I
there.
was about to say, because I think there's
Yeah.
only $78,000.
There should be 154,000
Oh, okay. That was what the FinCom said.
or
We
roughly.
think there's only $78,000.
No, I think unless last year something came out of there that should not have.
Nothing came out of there.
Because 3 years ago now, there. I have all the numbers.
Okay.
It's not
I
surprising.
do.
And we should be getting this information during budget reviews, and when you do the budget reviews with department heads, you should be getting a lot of this.
Yeah, so as part of their budget request, they had they were given a capital plan request.
And,
And so they've submitted their capital plan request
and each of those department heads will meet with the capital planning committee to
next
say,
month.
this is what we need and this is why.
Okay.
And in the process, there is a form that, so the requests come in and they should be filling out that form in there. And then you can evaluate. There's a numerical process, which is really kind of cool to figure out which are the most important based on how long the piece of equipment has been around, what its expected lifespan is, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
To replace it, or, you know.
Yeah, so if you look at the capital planning policy, that's all in there. And it's
Okay.
in the, I'm
I'll
gonna send
review
you the invite
Yeah.
and then you'll be able to see
All that
the
stuff.
documents. So,
Okay.
all right, so would you like to be the Board of Selectmen rep?
Yes, I would.
And I will check in with John Barrett and ask him to appoint me.
There you go. So
And then
it's-
I'll be a community member on that committee.
you could just have Dennis appointed, and you could be the power behind the throne.
But
You'll have a little earpiece to the meeting.
All right.
I don't see that.
I will wear my hearing aids. And then people will get suspicious. Why?
So that takes care of capital planning, we're good. And anything else to say under reports for board liaison?
I get a couple of things on my end of it.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to reiterate what the town administrator talked about in regards to the planning board. They desperately need some members. That's part of a major part of the way things happen in town. And we need to have I'd like to hear some fresh voices in town to be able to help them out. So we do need volunteers to step up for that, fill out a volunteer form. It's really important. It's a really important part of town business. This is what kind of moves town forward. Secondly, I wanted to say that I did get an email from our library director, Stacy Shuttler. Is that how you say your last name? Shuttler. They had their holiday fair, and their holiday fair was incredibly successful. And I personally want to give a nod out to the Townsend, the Friends of the Townsend Library. They are doing such a phenomenal job assisting with raising money for the library and a lot of the functions. I helped them out with the Halloween portion of it. That's fun for me. But we had an astronomical turnout for that. Again, for the holiday fair, total receipts looks like $7,170.62, which is just absolutely amazing. They had tables, children's games, children's shopping. They had food, cookies, raffle, crafter raffles, miscellaneous stuff. It was a great turnout. The only names that I know, they ran out of
I will
food.
just say that.
Yeah.
I was at the food, selling the food tickets.
Karen Clement, Christina Boyce, and Nicole Laviolette, I think, is part of the committee. And I just want to thank everybody that did anything to do with the holiday fair for the library, and good job for everybody for the Friends of the Library. But I also want to thank Stacy, because she's quite tireless when it comes to a lot of the work that she does for the town, and I don't think that she gets enough credit. So thank you, Stacy, for everything that you do, and everybody who had anything to do with the holiday fair. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. My only thing is, wow, two things, kind of wild and scenic grant. The stewardship grant, I believe the Conservation Commission is gonna put in for it. Two things is signage for watershed areas around town. And, the other is for, funding of removal of Japanese monkey.
Oh, good.
So,
Yeah.
you know, the hardware cloth and things like that we'll need for overexploring
Yeah.
Cook Meadows along the river there. So, I had thought of putting in for a baseline development report for, the CR at Squanicook Meadows, but they have a future, I checked in with them, and they have another grant round that's coming out in April, I think it is, for land protection.
Oh,
And so there are two things that I can think of for that. One is funding the BDR, and the other is surveying to cut off pieces that abut and develop the front part up. So cut off and sell, but surveying needs to be done to that. So anyway, those are the two things. So that's something. And that's all I have. Announcements and
So I just
communication.
wanted to do one more on the liaison. I did attend the energy meeting, and Erica,
Yes.
you might be able to provide some more. They were having a little difficulty
yes. Yeah.
getting, some, the information, because they have to show that we had so much of a percentage in order to have the green energy label
The green
that we,
yeah.
label that we have. And they have to show that we had we had a reduction. And we couldn't get the figures that we needed from the schools in a timely manner. So there might be a short period that we lose the label.
Yeah, so I saw that, and Ron had emailed me, so I emailed Nancy Haynes in an effort to get that information. I copied Karen Chapman from MRPC, since she's the one who's
Yeah.
putting
She's
together the
reporter.
report. Yeah, Karen was out at the end of last week and it wasn't in today, and I haven't had a chance to circle back with her to see if she got anything from Nancy. So, you know, I've reached out a bunch to the schools to try and get this information, and, you know, the one thing I got back before was they did authorize me to sign something saying that the work was done, so that
Oh,
was.
that's good.
Yeah,
So
we
I,
might be able to get an extension, we might be able to get it back in a few months. The reason we're trying to push it, the lighting changes, green energy will cover for lighting in the schools. Which everywhere else they won't cover them for buildings or anything. But they will cover the changes
yeah.
of LEDs to switch out to LED lights in the schools. So we're really pushing to try to get that covered.
Be great
So-
if the schools would
What?
be cooperative.
So we'll see,
It's
but
fine to me.
what?
I mean, it's just. We're not separate from the regional school district.
Yeah.
We are one of the towns, each of the towns is part of the regional school district. And it seems to me, I'm trying to understand why that concept doesn't work two ways, apparently. I'm not sure if I'm really saying that.
No, that's right. My plan is, I'll reach out to Karen and see if she's gotten any other information from the schools. If not, I'll reach out to Brad via email, because I feel like the only way to make sure that things kind of get recorded is do it in writing, via email, Brad and Nancy, and maybe that would spur some sort of response. So, it eventually did with the was the work done question, and can I sign this thing saying that the work's done, that we can submit it. And it did eventually work. I was hopeful that was,
I would like to be able to have a much more open dialogue with the school. It seems like we as the Board of Selectmen need or want more information, and we're not getting any information from them. That's concerning to me. It's been the amount of communication has whittled over the years, and I really do feel that did we reach out to our representatives, the town representatives for the school board to come talk to the Board of Selectmen?
I know that I've had conversations with at least one member of the school board. But yeah, we need to.
I would like to get them in here as soon as possible, just so we can have a discussion to find out what we can do to increase the communication, especially around the budget. I mean, that's something that really needs to have more talk than 2 or 3. And you have been in those meetings that I have been in where it was really merely presented to us. We were allotted a very short period of time to say what we thought about it, but that was all the collaboration that we had on it. It was, what do we think? And then that was it.
Yeah.
And I'm fearful that what is being presented and then saying that we had our chance to input, where we just voiced our opinion. There was no real collaboration or deliberation or change made. So I feel that was kind of misrepresented in that respect. I want to be able to have a good working relationship with the school. We have been reaching out. I know I have been reaching out, and we're not even getting, the agendas. What's happened at the school really needs to be on the town calendar so we can support our town, so the town people know.
Yeah, I think
Is it
at this
now?
point it is. Harrison and Veronica did a workaround.
Yes, we did. And I
It
think
shows
we
up on the
did.
calendar.
Right, which is that, I mean, that's a good step to.
But I think that more to your point, it was a workaround that Harrison and Veronica did rather than us
There you
just getting
go.
emailed.
The finance committee meeting, that was today.
Okay. So it is appearing on our calendar now, which is a good step in the right direction. So,
I am looking for I thought there was. I'm just into February. But anyway, yeah, and we were gonna put up in the Sheva Valley too.
correct.
But that's in
It's in the work.
the
Yeah, and this is what I think is going to improve our all-around communication.
So, just to finish where I was, it looks like we can get everything back up and running and on board and be ready for the April. That's when the next, one will be there. We should be able to have everything we need by April. And the grant would be $200,000, and the way they spread out the, energy committee spread it out, because it's mainly for LED lighting and it's no longer available in, commercial buildings. So 72K was Spalding, 78K was Spalding Elementary, weatherization. I don't know exactly what that is. Memorial Hall, decarb, the heater pumps potential. They wanted 61K. They need to revisit that and take a look at that. And 30K to weatherize the Memorial Hall building.
Can they use the estimates from, there were energy audits done on all the buildings?
I think that's
2 years
where
ago?
these
that's where
figures.
they-
came
And that's
from.
I think they were, Ron has that information, so I think
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah,
I think that's.
that's why
where
he's saying, I think they need to revisit it.
But
to make sure
they-
it's still accurate.
Because of this, they have to reapply for this April now because we didn't get all the numbers.
Right. So this is a prime example of us reaching out and getting these funds for things for the school. Because we want to help out. So, good work, Teresa, in getting this together, and we'll,
So I'll try to follow up with Karen, and if she doesn't have the information she needs with the schools.
what's,
And I'll put this letter and I'll put this on SharePoint, the spreadsheet on where they're spending what.
the next school committee meeting is on January 23rd at 7 PM. It's not on our calendar yet because they haven't posted it yet, but Harrison has his calendar set for 48 hours prior to each of these so that it will ping him so he can put an event on our town calendar and point to the agenda on the school committee.
Good.
Because we are not an official posting site for the school committee, therefore they will not send us the note. So, just know that.
I did know that.
So we're working on it. All right, can we go on to 5.3 or does?
Yeah,
anybody
I
else have-
apologize.
No,
I
it's
just
okay.
wanted to make sure I got that out.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to announcements of communications. Shirley Coit has resigned her position as TEMA director. We received a resignation. This has been a long-term position for her. So Eric is going to be meeting later in the month with see where we're going to go. So we'll hear more about that probably in the first February meeting.
Yes.
Making a list of things. Okay, and the other is that there is a public hearing for the stormwater management plan on Monday, January 23rd at 7:15 at Memorial Hall and via Zoom. This is for an application received from Country Estate Condominium Trust, Anestus Atletis, trustee, I don't know if I said that right, requesting a site plan review, special permit, and a stormwater management permit for repaving an existing parking area and modifications to create 26 additional parking spaces at 5 Turnpike Road. And so, this was posted in the Sentinel and Enterprise on January 4th and January 11th. And, it's the Townsend thing, so this is also up on the calendar. If anybody wants to. So those are the only 2 announcements that I had. Does anybody else have anything else? Okay, our next meeting is next week, Tuesday, for the supplemental special town meeting and the special town meeting on January 24th, beginning at 6:55 in the Great Hall. And our next regular selectmen's meeting is February 7th at 6 p.m. right? Or on Zoom. The special town meeting is not on Zoom. It is only in person and video. Recorded.
And we need a quorum.
And we do need a quorum, so please come. The lighted sign has a dead battery, the one here on the common. So hopefully it will be up and running soon. It was very gray and it's solar powered. Over the weekend it was gray, so it's petered out, but it will be done. Meanwhile, all the information is on the website. So you can find that.
Do we have the supplemental on the website? too?
Yes.
Mhm.
Exactly.
All right.
Supplemental, special, and special permit.
Mhm.
And you can see the warrant, you can access the warrants there too. And they're posted about town and the appropriate location. So. Is there a motion to review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session?
Make a motion that we review payroll and warrants out of session, payroll warrants out of session.
Second,
All those in favor?
Teresa, yes?
Jess Sexton Duranian, yes?
And Veronica Kelly. With that, we are going to move into executive session and adjourn from there. So is there a motion?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I move that we enter into executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect to the litigation position of the public body and the chair so declares, and then adjourn from the executive session.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Teresa A. Morse, yes?
Jess Sexton Duranian, yes?
And, yes, so thank you, everybody.